Hey Refuge Kids, it's Caleb here, and today we're going to read about Daniel and the Lion's Den. Daniel and the scary sleepover. Things were not looking good for God's people. They had been captured and taken far from home. Now they were slaves in the kingdom of Babylon. But God did not leave them. He was with them and looking after them. Daniel loved God and obeyed him. Now God made Daniel able to understand lots of difficult things, so it wasn't long before King Darius, the king of Babylon, noticed him. King Darius liked how clever Daniel was, so he made Daniel his most important helper of all and put him in charge of lots of other helpers. But the other helpers didn't like this. They wanted the king to like them best. They wanted to get rid of Daniel. So they spied on Daniel. They tried to find things wrong with Daniel, things they could tell the king, but there weren't any. None. They couldn't find anything at all. Except that there was just one thing. Every day, 3 times a day, without failure, no matter what, Daniel went to his room and prayed. They smiled to themselves. Let's get the king to make a new law. No one is allowed to pray to anyone except the king. Daniel won't be able to obey this law, and he won't be punished. They were pleased with themselves for being so clever and hurried off to tell the king. The king liked their idea. He didn't know they were tricking him, so he made it into a law. Everyone must pray only to me. If you don't obey the law, the lions will have you for dinner. Daniel heard this. He knew it was wrong to pray to any other god except his God. He had to do what God said, whatever it costed him, even if it meant he would die. So Daniel went to his room, shut the door, and he prayed. They smiled to themselves. Let's get the king to make a law. No one is allowed to pray except to the king. Daniel won't obey this law, and he's going to be put in prison. Or worse. They were very pleased with themselves for being so clever and hurried off to tell the king. The king liked their idea. He didn't know they were tricking him, so he made a law. Everyone must pray only to me, your king. Daniel heard this, but he knew that it was a sin to pray to any other god except for his God. So he decided to pray. So he went in his room, shut the door, and prayed. That's just what the bad man knew Daniel would do. They skipped straight off to tell the king, "Oh, your most glittering highness, your law says, does it not, that everyone must pay only to you, sire?" And the king says, "Well, yes, it does." "Oh, majesty, brightness, then correct us if we're wrong. But it would not seem that Daniel is praying to God, not to you." And the king was sad. He had been tricked. He didn't want to hurt Daniel, but he couldn't change his own law. And so he let the soldiers throw Daniel to the lions. "May your God, who you love so much, rescue you," said the king. The king went back to his palace, but he didn't sleep at all. Not a wink. He tossed and turned until finally, at the glimmer of dawn, he leaped out of bed. And he went to the den of the lions. "Daniel, has your God rescued you?" he said. "Yes," Daniel shouted. God sent the angels to close the lions' mouths. And there, resting in Daniel's lap, was the biggest lion, purring like a little kitten. The king brought Daniel out of the den. "Look," Daniel said, "I don't even have a scratch." And all of the king's men and everyone said, "He doesn't." They decided this must be the true God, so the king made a new law. Daniel's God is the true God, the God who rescues. Pray to him instead. God would keep on rescuing his people. And a time was coming when God would send another brave hero like Daniel, who would love God and do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant he would die. And together they would pull off the biggest rescue in the world. Do you guys know do you guys think that you know who that is? I do. Isn't it Jesus? Wasn't he sent here to die on the cross to save all of us from our sins? Thank you so much, Lillian, for filming the video. And thank you for watching, Refuge Kids.
See you guys next week. Bye.